you could argue it's a very intangible approach, but in fact it's a very satisfying approach because you get a sense when things are ready to move, and often they are. The other one that stands out in my mind is one where I went with 3 other of our former leaders to what is now Timor-Leste, right at the time that Ramos Horta had become the president. In fact, only a few weeks after the election, the government was still being formed, and he had literally the whole of the UN parked in his backyard with the peacekeeping force, and all of the embassies, many of them probably present today, are there wanting to help. But he said that he asked for our assistance because every time he opened his mouth he felt he was going to be reported in the newspaper. And he wanted a group of trusted advisors who had been there and who would come and just be available to him. And I think we were there for 6 days, and on 9 occasions in 6 days he would ring up and say, I would like to talk to you again. And he tested us with I think things that only leaders perhaps could share. And we had a person from the Philippines, we had myself from New Zealand, we had someone from Eastern Europe, and a former leader from Mauritius. And so that collective bunch of experience, some of it was rebels trying to then become parliamentarians, so that whole transition issue. There were refugees in the camps in Dili. There were all sorts of complexity, and yet he was also wanting help with language that would be inspirational, and was wanting us to help him. If you were to lift a nation, what are the areas of language you could use? And so there were many questions he had: how to interpret the Constitution, how to encourage the opposition parties to feel that even though they'd lost the election, that they had an important role to play in the formation of this youngest state in the globe today. And so there are many ways in which these leaders, I'm not sure if I'd say that they're the most successful, but they're the most successful of the many that I have been on. And while everyone has their own success, for me they were very satisfying. People measure things in different ways. One of them, I went on to Egypt, and while I enjoyed it very much, we were again working with the opposition. One of the organizations that funded it, that will remain nameless, their judgment of success was when they were told that the Muslim Brotherhood group of politicians firstly attended, but secondly that they were prepared to engage with a woman leader like myself, and indeed shake my hand as they left. And these are small human illustrations that when you get people of goodwill in the room, where you're not bringing an agenda, there was no imposition here. We said, look, if you would like to talk, we're here. And what was meant to be a half-hour meeting, we had to stop just under 2 hours. We had to go. But the hunger to share experience of people who have been there and understand the pressure of electoral systems and of accountability and of the media and of trying to make progress, these are things that the Club of Madrid can share that perhaps very few others can genuinely offer.
Señora Chiple, yo no le voy a hacer una pregunta, pero sí quiero compartir más que nada una reflexión, yo diría una preocupación, y hacerle una petición, a ver caso es posible. Usted hace pocos momentos ahí en la sala del Secretario General, con el Secretario General Adjunto, suscribió un acuerdo que se supone que es para cooperar dentro de lo que nosotros llamamos el esquema multilateral interamericano y el Club de Madrid. Entonces, más que una reflexión, que son siempre interesantes, pero este no es solo un centro académico, este es un órgano político, yo quiero plantearle algo. En esta organización, la señora Klinger hizo referencia a una negociación que se está haciendo aquí, es una negociación política, de una declaración de los derechos de los pueblos indígenas, que es un tema que yo diría tiene sensibilidades políticas, tiene sensibilidades jurídicas, culturales, y lo que usted señaló, tiene miedos sociales, riesgos, y usted dijo que los riesgos, la inacción frente al riesgo es preferible a la acción. Entonces, por Dios que sería importante que en una futura reunión del grupo de trabajo de pueblos indígenas, que es una negociación particular porque participan gobiernos y representantes de las comunidades indígenas, usted pudiera compartir las experiencias que usted ha tenido como primer ministro y las experiencias que ha tenido su país, que es un país de vanguardia en la diversidad cultural. Yo quisiera pedirle formalmente que lamentablemente hoy día no está el embajador de Bolivia, que es quien preside ese grupo de trabajo, pero que usted pudiéramos mantener el contacto a través del Secretario General Adjunto y del Secretario General para ser activo e implementar este acuerdo que se firmó en algo que interesa para promover mayor inclusión en nuestras sociedades. Su experiencia creo que puede ser valiosa y me gustaría, no es pregunta, sino que obtener, no voy a decir un fuerte compromiso, pero ojalá la disposición del Club de Madrid para ayudar a reflexionar conjuntamente, porque si reflexionamos todos en conjunto podemos acercarnos a una realidad más inclusiva en las Américas. Gracias.
Well, let me comment. The Club of Madrid tries to respond to requests. So if there is a request, and we have signed this agreement today, so finding ways in which we can work most usefully. We won't come interfering. So identifying the areas which you think the collaboration can be most acutely useful to your organization, we would be very happy to consider. And sometimes the way in which we work, Mr. Chairman, is on a particular project. Sometimes it might just be a one-off event, where you might be having a session or sessions and you might ask one of the Club of Madrid members, and the club would then look at who has the skill and experience that can be most useful to you. There's rather a standing joke in the Club of Madrid. As you'll appreciate, quite a lot of the work we do is in Europe. And from time to time they ask, who can go to the Americas, or who can go to Asia. And I find myself more often than not saying, well, I can go because it's on the way home. When you're a Kiwi, you can go whichever way around the world, and almost anywhere is on the way home. So, look, I hear what you're saying, and there are many members in our team who are experienced in indigenous populations and introducing strong strategies that can bring through a remedy. And I'm sure if there was a request, we would find a way to help you.
Thank you very much, and we certainly will follow up in the most appropriate manner. I wanted to, in closing, make three comments. One is to thank the Honourable Jennifer Shipley, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, for her very practical, very rich presentation today. Not only the presentation, but also the dialogue which you had in response of the questions. Thank you very much. I believe that we have set the stage for increased collaboration through the signing of the agreement, and over the coming months, certainly with member states and with permanent observers, we will see how we can materialize in more concrete terms the collaboration. Sharing our experiences, sharing our best practices is going to be critical in support of many of the areas mentioned also by Ambassador Oyarse. The second one is to thank the San Martín de Porres University for its continued engagement in this Cátedra de las Américas, as well as the government of Spain for their contribution, and the People's Republic of China. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. There are several other activities taking place in the hemisphere, so we are a little bit distracted, but thank you very much for being here. I want to thank Ambassador Oyarse for joining us, as well as Ambassadors Jorge Skinner-Cree, the chairman of the Juridical and Political Affairs Committee. And I want to announce that the next meeting of the Cátedra will be on October the 5th at 3 o'clock, right here. And it will be, our guest will be Dr. Alicia Barcena, the Director General of ECLAC, of CEPAL in Chile, the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, and she will speak on the issue which also is very current, the search for solutions to the financial crisis, measures taken, and future challenges. So I invite you again for that opportunity. I thank you very much.